What up, tech supporters? Paradox back with more like always. So, of course, this is my infamous GTR plate that adapts the Ford Freestar lower intake to the Nissan GTR lower intake using my 1-inch adapter plate to put the upper intake of a Nissan GTR in a Mustang V6. This thing's awesome. I really never could have believed that when I had this idea to put this on there, it would have been this easy in the end, but it was just a lot of trial and error, research and development, and, blood, sweat, and tears put into, trying to make this thing, even though life goes on and you don't always have money to throw at stuff, but you had this idea to see if it'll work. So anyways, after all that, I can't believe the thing fits in the car. That's what blew me away, is that the twin throttles, and even under the hood, it was only under a 2.5-inch cowl hood. So this is pretty amazing that this thing all fit and worked out design-wise, turned out. So when I was working on this, of course, if anybody knows, I made this all by hand, and to do this, no CNC or lathe or anything, I had to drill out and grind out these holes using a die grinder. I had to basically sit here and grind these down until I could get through it and make this plate, because nobody believed it, and I had to basically do this everything 200% myself. And so basically there is the Freestar on the bottom and the Nissan lower intake on top, and I just had to drill a hole through it and make that all happen. How I did that was I was working in between these foam designs. So basically this is how I get these. This is a Freestar to GTR intake lineup, and so what I do is I use these foam pads, and I'm able to press these down on the intakes and use that to line them up and see if I could make these plates work. And people seen how I did that. I got a little video on that, and then so with that I was able to see how to line up the Freestar intake with the Nissan GTR, find out it would work. It was really cool. In that I realized that they would line up almost perfectly. So like when it goes down to each runner and everything, it's perfect all the way down both lines. It's all lined up. But there is a heel in this that you almost can't even see on camera. So like if that was the toes and this is the thigh, there's a heel right here, and it goes past where you'd think. So like when I take this off, it's probably 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch of back heel right here that's really unfavorable. I can tell that it's in an unfavorable spot right here, so you really can't see it, but it's in a bad spot. And this whole time that I built this thing, it just stuck in my head. I'm like, at high RPM, I might get a pop or a bang out of this air pocket right here, because it's, the valve pressure when the cylinder opens, it releases pressure of the compression back up the valve runner, and they have like things in the runners to make sure that goes up right. Well, anyways, like this is going to probably be a misfire at some point, or I'm going to probably see a design error there. Even though it's minimal, it's so tiny, it's actually engine parts, so it gets judged down to the thou, you know what I mean? People who've done this know that. So it's kind of cool just, knowing that this entire project turns out to be a success. Whether or not it was extremely high horsepower, you never know. So like I'm gonna put it in and we're gonna see, because I mean even naturally aspirated, I'm interested in running this, so we're gonna see how this works. The only thing is when I ran it out back in my brain, I thought all of different kinds that I can do to make this. How can I get rid of this, and I was like, I can fill it, maybe I can make like a box intake or something that'll try to smooth it out over a longer run, so it'll kind of like not just be like a little ankle that dramatically drops back. So instead of doing any of that, I came up with an idea, and I said, well, you know what, there's another intake I can go look at, and I can make a foam pressing out of it, and we can line it up and see if that works. So what I did was of course I got a 01 Windstar lower intake, and I lined that up with it, and I said, wow, well, this 01 Windstar lines up even better than mine. So maybe we should check that out. And of course I'd said, if the first takes years to design, the awesome part about a design is that it takes overnight to recreate it. So even though this took me 3 years to think of it, and the design is a little flawed, and I did beat this all up because it was my first time, and a lot of it was just balls and courage and trying to make an idea come to life. How can I do it? And I did it. And then it's almost like God kind of handed me back, and he said, here bro, check this out, go try this on the 01 lower intake. So this is adapter plate number 2. The first took almost 40 hours by hand to make. The second I had done in about 12 hours. So it was done by hand. Everything lines up better too. It's in a lot better condition. I still got the protector stuff on here. But basically, when I lined these up, they were virtually perfect. Like I was like, there's no way that this motor design isn't like lined up identical. So when I did it, I bought the plate. It's really cheap. I got the lower intake, also really cheap. People just discard these. And of course, this is from a Windstar. There needs to be some really intense fitting on here. So basically, there is a tube that on the 01 Windstar goes up and is attached here, goes and rides through the lower intake. That this is 3/4 NPT, but you're able to just 3/4 NPT tap that really easy. As well as I did put a fitting in the back, so there's a cross flow. But this is a perfect manifold. So now, of course, ladies and gentlemen, there's a perfect port. It just flows like a log. After porting and everything, she really lined up. They're all perfect. Now that's a good GTR adapter. It's perfect. There's no oblong or nothing out of them. It's all just 3 perfect logs, identical. Don't mind my port job. Of course, it was all by hand, and I was kind of trying to go quick because I was like, you know, I already know how to do this. And I was really excited, honestly, because I had the idea, and I was like, it's only like $100 to shake at this, you know, if I can come up with $100 to try it again. And 16 hours later, we have a whole second adapter plate. Everything lines up. So the Ford 3.8 and the Nissan 3.8, their intakes are, as long as it's the Windstar, it's virtually identical, because the difference is basically the Freestar comes in, the upper intake comes in at a lower angle. So on this one, the Freestar kind of comes in at almost to this angle, where with the Windstar, the intake comes in at a downward angle. So that's the reason why this runner is perked up like that, compared to like that with a heel. So basically this intake is made to run at a lower geometry to fit under hoods better with the Windstar, or with the Freestar intake. So as you're seeing that, of course, this is going to have a bigger area to run through for it. It's going to flow more air, but this one is just in a better angle and direction and everything for it, for it to all to line up. I don't want to take this off right now. I'm not gonna. But yeah, so in a nutshell, we now have 2 GTR adapters. Thanks guys for tuning in, man. It's crazy when I put this thing together. We're going to see what happens. It's a hell of a project, and if I have the world's first push rod GTR, I'm relatively excited. I mean, I just want to let her be a garage queen. See you next time.